So this week we have this video, and so write down your questions as the video is playing, and we will discuss them at the end.
Or, if something's pertinent, I have no concern with stopping the video also
Okay.
here. And you could throw your questions into the meeting chat as well.
Oh, okay. I'll keep an eye on that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. I think we have everyone here. So welcome folks once again. Neighborhood Ambassador Training Module 4. And this session, we're gonna hear basically some descriptions of from our fire and forestry professionals. One is Jamie Baumgartner. He's a division chief now with the Monument Fire Department.
Are you still talking, Andre?
Andre froze.
Andre, oh, he froze. Oh, okay. We'll just have to.
On his, I think our presentation last year was one of his last events here. So we were pretty honored to have him participate. And then afterward, we're going to talk about neighborhood assessments. So the video takes about an hour here as we go through it. And I apologize for not being able, we couldn't get folks to align to their schedules, didn't align with ours. So we're relying on the video, but you'll hear all the same things that they would have said here. And I think the video that you see is, I think provides a lot of good information here. And just a few program notes before we get going here. On Saturday, April the 8th, we are supporting it's a combination, but there's a wildfire preparedness information event at Palmer. Actually, it's not Lewis Palmer.
Palmer
Ridge. Palmer Ridge. I made a mistake there. It's Palmer Ridge High School. And there is a website that I know Russ found here. And where did I have that?
I put it in the chat now. Thanks to Russ for finding it.
Okay. Yeah, here it is.
And that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yep. So descriptions here, and you'll see what the schedule looks like here, and then you'll see that Lisa and I will be there presenting. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to condense modules 2 and 3 into 45 minutes worth of talk. So it'll be interesting to see how we go from there. But this is on the, I think, link from from the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management's fire mitigation page. So come on out and see us if you're available that day.
And send people that haven't attended the class or might be interested. They can just pop in for any part of it, and there will also be information booths in the outside the auditorium.
And yeah, we'll be able to chat a little bit more, and I think that's a good opportunity to talk with your fire and forestry professional right there, because they will be there in force. So if whatever you can, anytime you can grab one of those folks and chat with them, I highly encourage it. Okay. And
that's from 9 to noon, right?
I believe that's correct, is what I saw.
Thank you.
Just real quick while we were
Andre,
talking about.
just from 1 minute, a little while ago, you froze for a minute. So as we start the video, maybe we should all turn off our own cameras during the video. Maybe that might help.
Oh,
Okay. Oh, also, I did review 3 sets of homework. Randy, I apologize for being late to respond back to you. No pressure or concern with my response back to you. You get it to me whenever you can, but the folks that did provide it did a great job with the really good pictures, like the fact that you guys went through the checklist here. So before I go into that video, I just want to check, were there any questions from folks that you'd want us to answer before we continue on? I think that was a a good exercise. We'll actually go through it again, but anything that jumped out at you that you were concerned about that you may need some questions answered with? Okay, with that here, like I mentioned before, we'll go through the Fire and Forestry Professionals Forum and then go through the different neighborhood assessments piece afterward. So I'm gonna stop sharing that and then come back over to our video. And, here we go. So as I mentioned, you can, type some questions that you have into the chat and, or just say, ask if you can, if we need to stop, say, please, chime in for that or put something in the chat and then we'll be happy to stop and answer a question if you really need to hear it. So like I mentioned before, if this should be the Monument Fire Department. This was recorded a couple of years ago here, but it's all the information is pertinent. Here we go.
Thanks, Andre. I appreciate the welcome and introduction, and I appreciate you canceling your event to support me on May 15th. I'll do my best to make sure it's worthwhile for everyone that wants to attend, and I'll make sure Lisa lets you know what's going on with that event as well in case you want to join us on May 15th here in Monument. So thanks. As Andre said, I am Jamie Bumgarner. I'm the Fire Marshal and Division Chief of Fire Prevention Community Risk here in Monument. And obviously my job, the largest part of that is I work for the fire chief. I kind of make that designation. Some people get that confused. The fire chief's actually in charge of the district, and then I work for him in the prevention aspect of our organization. So it's my job to look out for all the things that we can prevent fires from starting or take steps, which is what we're talking about here today and tonight. And this actual whole program is community risk reduction and removing that wildfire risk from the homes and the neighborhoods that we can. So, but yeah, thank you for that, Andre. If you want to go into the first slide, I'll start talking from there. Much like many of your fire districts that cover you, we here at Tri-Lakes Monument, we cover about 52 square miles here in northern El Paso County. It includes the town of Monument and in the unincorporated areas of El Paso County around the town of Monument. The exception to that is some people think Palmer Lake. Palmer Lake has their own fire department as well. And so essentially we have everything from the County Line Road, which is I-25 and the 163 exit, and you take a square almost and go all the way to almost Palmer Lake, slip around Palmer Lake, go to the National Forest, and then we go all the way east to Black Forest Road essentially, and then south to Baptist Road. So it's a big triangle, or a big square. We'll have a picture on the next page of maps, you can see it, but that's kind of what we cover. We have 3 fire stations that are fully staffed. We have 15 personnel on each shift. We do not have any volunteers. That's a kind of an unusual thing here in Colorado, but we don't have any volunteer firefighters that help us staff our stations. It's all career personnel. We also provide an ambulance service with that. So we have paramedics at each one of our stations, and then 2 of our stations have a ALS paramedic ambulance at each station. And in 2020, we ran just a little over 2,500 calls, which was actually down for us from 2019. We were over 3,000 in 2019. So we can all understand COVID. That's sometimes what people don't realize is our COVID call volume actually went down by about 500 calls. Plus we had a huge blizzard in 2019 that jumped our calls up by 150 in a day. So trade those 2 off, and that's about where we're at with 2020 was 2,500 calls. And our elevation here in Monument's about 7,100 feet. Obviously we service areas a little under that and then a little over that, but just we kind of say on average, we're at about 7,100 feet above sea level, which obviously puts us right in that prime area, I would say, is what we call it for wildfires, because we do in Monument get the Palmer Divide effect of the snowstorms, which I understand you guys are getting some snow there. You'll have to forgive me, but obviously I'm not in my office here in uniform. I'm actually on vacation in North Carolina at the Outer Banks. So I'm enjoying some sun and fishing, and it was actually 70 degrees today, Andre. So just for you folks back there in Colorado, it was really nice today. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. But if you would go ahead and go to the next slide, Andre. there's a picture of the map that I was telling you about, and you can kind of see it's kind of hard, but we kind of just go right across the top border there. And if you look at the very top, it says Larkspur Fire, Franktown Fire. We border those Douglas County agencies on the top up there. Over to the far left of the map or your screen, you're going to see Palmer Lake. And then everything except for that, we go right down to Baptist Road and out to Black Forest. So that's kind of the big map that we cover. The interesting thing I want to point out to folks that are from the Monument, El Paso County area is all the forest land that we cover east of I-25 includes Woodmore and Whistler Ranch and a bunch of those out through there, Arrowwood and all those. That is all the Black Forest. And that's a portion of the Black Forest that didn't burn with the Black Forest fire. So one of the things when I tell folks that is, hey, you know, there is still a Black Forest here, and it wraps all the way back up in here around into Monument. So we do need to make sure we take steps to secure that. As you can see, it's very linear across there. Our fire stations, it's kind of hard to see, but we have Station 1's just west of I-25. Andre's got his cursor over there. And then we've got our Station 3, which is just east of I-25 right there. And then our Station 2 is way out east out there at Roller Coaster and Highway 105. So our stations really go kind of in a linear fashion across the middle of our district. And we know we need to work on that. So that's going to be moving forward. We're going to probably have something down south there too. So along the I-25 corridor around Baptist Road. So more to come on that, but that's kind of our district. And then the interesting part of that is the entire west side of our district, west of I-25, with the exception of Palmer Lake, where I talked about, we completely border the National Forest, the Pike National Forest on the west side. And then the south side down there, we border the United States Air Force Academy. So we have a forestry boundary all along the western side of our border, or with that forest or the Air Force Academy. So wildfire is obviously a huge issue that we deal with here in Monument, and we're doing a risk assessment as part of a potential accreditation process for our district, and we all recognize the fact that wildfire is one of our largest risks that we have here in Monument, so that's one of the things we do take seriously for sure. Next slide, please. Kind of back to what I talked about, I jumped a little ahead. We do obviously provide fire suppression. A lot of people ask what fire suppression means. Well, that means that we respond to all sorts of fires, whether they're car fires, vehicle fires, structure fires, wildfires, any type of fire event. That's what we're there for, 911. Emergency medical, ALS paramedics. We have 2 ambulances, as I said before. We have a 3rd one if we need it. Plus we have paramedics on most all of our rigs that are responding to your 911 calls. So that's one of the things that we do. And then the other thing is, you know, the area I deal with, which is community risk reduction. We provide home assessments. So you guys learned about those last week. We do those as a fire protection district as well. We come out and talk with the homeowners. And the way I like to view it is, it's a conversation between a firefighter and the homeowners. We walk around your property and we talk about what we see your property as a firefighter. That's going to be different than my partner, Dave Root, that you're going to hear from later. And it's probably going to be a little different than what Lisa and Andre tell you, or some of the other folks that tell you. And it's a nice conversation to be had, because I'm going to look at things a little different than they're going to look at things. But at the end of the day, we're all going to try to boil back down to those simple steps that you as a homeowner can take, or as an activist can take, to get your homeowners association on board with those. Then we do have a community chipping program here in Monument. We were extremely fortunate. We applied for a grant several years ago, and the State Forest Service awarded us the grant to buy a chipper and a vehicle to pull the chipper with. It was a 50-50 grant. So we do have a chipper or a chipping program here in Monument. It's been going now for 2 years, and really strong this 3rd year coming forward. And so we do that as well. We work with homeowners associations as opposed to individual homeowners right now in that chipping program. And folks like yourselves that are active in your homeowners association, organize chipping days. We'll bring our chipper out, and then we work with you to go around as to many homes as we can in that one-day event, and chip the slash piles that they've drug out to the road, and we get rid of those. So that's a program we offer. We also offer public education, just like I'm doing with you folks here tonight. We offer the opportunity to talk about our district, what we try to do, what our goals and our missions are for the district. Which obviously number one is to protect our citizens. And the one thing, and then the other thing with that is we have various other community education programs, whether it's 4th of July parades, whether it's school programs in October. We do all of those things to help better educate our community on various events. It can be from senior safety, cooking safety, fall prevention safety, swimming safety. We don't have as much of that. but we have all those types of events that we do work with and try to educate our communities on and make sure that they have the latest and the greatest information that we can put in their hands to make sure we reduce that risk to our citizens and our community as well. And then the other thing is in there that a lot of people don't realize, you'll hear me talk about this a little bit later. Any of those steps that I can take as the community risk reduction division or the prevention division that I have, it also prevents our firefighters and our staff from having to being put in harm's way to respond to emergencies. So it kind of all boils down back into the same pot. We want to keep you safe and we want to keep our staff safe as well. So that's one of the things that we do as a district. Next slide, Andre. A lot of people in Monument before 2012 only knew about the one large fire, which was called the Hayman Fire. Many of you live here may know about the Hayman Fire. Many of you may not know about the Hayman Fire. Was one of the first eye openers for us here in the state of Colorado about a large wildfire, the potential that a large wildfire can cause here. I wasn't here in 2002 when the Hayman Fire burned. I certainly heard all the stories about the Hayman Fire burning, but I can tell you I was here for the 2012 Waldo Canyon Fire and the 2013 Black Forest Fire. This picture, and I put this picture specifically in this presentation for a reason, this picture is taken from the Walgreens in Monument on the day that the Black Forest Fire experienced its blowdown, as the way, or some of us have called it, where it blew down Stanley Canyon and into the city of Colorado Springs. So back down in there that you see in the far side of that picture covers the Air Force Academy, and then that goes down into Stanley Canyon and the western side of I-25 there at Woodman Road. That was the view from Monument as soon as this event started taking place. That woke a lot of people up in many aspects. Unfortunately, the city of Colorado Springs, it was a very rude awakening to most of those folks, but to us in the Monument area up here, it was a very quick but not as rude awakening for us that, hey, this is a threat and this does happen to us and it does happen in our community. We didn't have a chance to forget that, because very quickly, less than 365 days on its heels in 2013, the Black Forest Fire started just south of us again in Monument, and it continued to burn east, and then it started wrapping its way back to the northwest, which was coming back toward Monument. We were fortunate we were able to stop that fire at Highway 83 and Hodgen Road, keep it south of Hodgen Road at that 83 intersection. And then when it did cross Hodgen Road, we were able to suppress it before it got up to county line. The Black Forest Fire, again, only cemented more for our folks in the Monument area. Hey, this is a threat that we experience, and this is something we need to take serious. The other thing I wanted to note is those three fires that you see up there on that screen, the Hayman, the Waldo Canyon, and the Black Forest, those are the fires that you hear about. My last bullet down there says numerous other smaller fires. Those are the fires that you don't hear about. And there's two reasons I bring that up. One is you don't hear about those fires. So there are more fires occurring in our area than we probably hear about. And then the other thing with that is we like to also view it as those fires were smaller and we were able to extinguish them. And perhaps those fires remain smaller from the work that you folks put in as citizens, working with us to partner together to make this partnership so we can mitigate and make it safer for all of us, and especially reducing fuels is the way to go. So that's kind of why I put that bullet point in there, is because there are numerous other fires. If you follow us on social media, you'll hear about the fires that start in the Pike Forest. We'll talk about it was a quarter acre, it was a single tree strike, etc. Those are wildfires. And those fires did start and they did burn some portion of the structures or some portion of the forest, I'm sorry. So anyway, that's kind of why I wanted to put that last bullet in there, and we can move on to the next slide there, Andre. What do we need you to do? So this is me talking to you as Tri-Lakes Monument Fire, but I think I speak for any of the fire departments that you live within those areas, particularly here in Colorado. The first thing is preparation is critical. We need you to take preparation steps to be ready for a fire way before the fire even starts. Preparedness, same thing. Preparedness is essential. We need you to take steps to make sure you're prepared, your property's prepared, your family's prepared, you have a place to meet if you need to leave home and meet somewhere if you're both not home, if husband and wife aren't home, kids aren't home, parents live in the area, kids live out of the area. What's your plan as to how you're going to be able to take those steps if and when you need to evacuate? Because make no mistake, it's going to happen at some point in time. You just need to have a plan and be prepared on how you're going to execute it. The other thing is safety. if nothing else, the Walter Canyon Fire and the Black Forest Fire hopefully demonstrated to the majority of the residents that live in the Tri-Lakes District. 2012, the West Side residents were heavily affected. 2013, the East Side residents were heavily affected. It hopefully emphasized the fact of you need those preparation and those preparedness steps. You also need to be able to function and do that safely. Your safety and our firefighter safety is paramount above everything else, period. End of the day, that's what we want to ensure, your safety and the safety of our firefighters. If we can accomplish those two goals and then get in there and help save structures, then we've all won at that point in time. But your safety and our firefighter safety is paramount to those. I would be completely remiss if I didn't bring it up here, but please, under the safety column, I emphasize this again, make sure that you're signed up for your local emergency notification program. Here in El Paso County, we have what's called El Paso Teller 911. They have a great program that we use to notify folks in those situations. But whatever county you're in, make sure your landlines and your cell phone lines are all signed up to receive that message. I just can't emphasize that enough. I know Lisa and Andre know this, but in El Paso County, the numbers were extremely dismal of how many people were registered to receive that notification. Thanks, Lisa. I saw she just posted that in the chat, how you can sign up if you're in El Paso and Teller County. Please, please, please sign up for that system. I'm going to mess it up, but I want to say there was less than like 40% or 30% of the folks in El Paso, Teller County were signed up to receive those notifications. That's a very dismal number of folks that are going to receive notifications. I hope you're one of those, and if you're not, let's make sure we get them all signed up. And then kind of my last bullet on this slide is together we can accomplish this before there's smoke in the air. We're certainly willing to help do as much as we can do, but the homeowners and the folks that are just like yourself sitting here tonight, letting me talk with you, you're the ones that make this happen. Anything we can do at Tri-Lakes Monument Fire, along with Tri-Lakes, Baptist Church, my partner Dave Root from the Colorado State Forest Service, we're here to help and partner with you, but we have to do it together, and we have to do this well before there's smoke in the air. Once there's smoke in the air, most of the bets are off. It's not time for me to try to run my chipper to your neighborhood. It's not probably a good time for you to try to get all the slash drug out to your street. We needed to have done that before there's smoke in the air and before the fire starts. Next slide, I think, Andre.
That's the last one.
That's it? Okay. And so some folks had asked, the questions are probably going to come up about like the chipper program. How do you do that? You can reach out to myself. You can reach out to Andre or Lisa. They'll direct you on how to get in touch with me. But again, we like to work with your homeowners association. We just don't have the staffing right now that we can work with the individual homeowners on a lot by lot basis. We like to work with the communities at this point in time, and we'll bring the chipper in. We ask you to partner with us. You're going to need to create the labor to cut the material, drag the material to the street side, and then create the chains as you see here in this picture on the left. That's the two folks up by the chipper work for our district, and then most of them are volunteers dragging the slash from the street side. You help your neighbor helps you is the way this happens. And it creates a human chain. You drag it up to our staff, and our staff will feed it in the chipper. You don't even have to get close to the chipper if you're afraid of the chipper. Please, just, it's working together to accomplish what we need to accomplish. I think that's kind of what I had intended to present to the group tonight. I will pause here. I think Andre's going to take over, but I'll be here through Dave's presentation as well.
Jamie, we do have a question that's related to the chipping program, and the question comes from Julie Kalish. And do the residents pay a fee for the home assessments and chipping program?
That is a great question, Andre, and thank you for submitting that question. No, on both parts. The residents do not pay for the home assessment. That's part of my job as the fire district will pay, or they pay me. That's what I do, is I come out to do the home assessments for you. And then the community chipping program, there is no fee for that. We asked your fee be your volunteer in-kind work, where you're out there working alongside our staff on the day of the chipping program. And obviously you have to do your pruning and thinning and fuel mitigation work before we bring the chipper out. So that's kind of your pay-in portion, plus being there to support our staff on the day of the event. So we do not ask for money though. That's just volunteer in-kind matches.
Thank you, Jamie, for that. And I'd like to open it up to the group. Is there anyone who has a question? Take yourself off mute and ask your question directly.
Andre, could Lisa post again the number, the 911 notification number? It was a little too fast for me.
Okay, it's your shot, folks. Ask all the questions you want. Don't be shy.
Andre, could you hear me?
From Ed, can we feed?
There's a
Could you
link
hear-
in the chat for the website for peak alerts, which is the El Paso Teller County 911. And so if you go to that website, you can put in all your phones, your addresses. You can have a work address, you can have a home address. So if you go to the website, it's self-explanatory on how to sign up.
Steve, are you able to see the chat of our meeting right now, the live one tonight?
Let me see.
It's down at the bottom of your screen. If you hover your cursor down at the bottom,
Yeah, I've
and you-
done that.
and there's a button that says chat. If you click on that, it should pop
Yeah.
up a window to the side. I just want to make sure you're there. That's where and so they'll-
Yeah, so that's the peak alert website, huh? Okay. Thank you.
Did you find it?
I did, yeah.
That's just good for general Zoom meeting attendance. Dude, there's always fun stuff going on in the chat.
Yeah, whoops.
And if you remember peakalerts.org, that'll take you to the same site here to get you signed up. They call it many different names here, but something that you can remember versus trying to remember that it's an Everbridge platform, et cetera. So if it's peakalerts.org in a browser, you should be able to get to there.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and we'll go ahead and resume the video.
Firefighters who run the chipper.
Absolutely. You can feed the firefighters who run the chipper for you. They would appreciate that, I'm sure. We'll just work that into the schedule when they're visiting with your neighborhoods. But yes, you can feed the firefighters, and they're like bears. They will eat it, but they won't necessarily come back every time. But yes, they would appreciate it.
Awesome. It's a question from John Putt. Does Tri-Lakes do any evacuation training with neighborhood groups?
You know, we as Tri-Lakes Fire don't do evacuation training for groups. I would have to refer to my partners at Pikes Peak Regional OEM. They're probably better experts at that than I am. One of the things a lot of folks may in El Paso County not understand is when it comes to evacuation, that's a law enforcement driven type event. We help organize, or we help not organize, but we help determine when it needs to occur. But law enforcement takes that over. So we don't actually provide the evacuation training, but we're more than willing to help however we could. But Pikes Peak Regional OEM is probably the best person to reach out to for that.
Yeah, Jamie, and if I recall, before the COVID situation came on, we were on track to do an evacuation exercise in our area, and that was going to include both the citizens and the professionals, correct?
That is correct. We were going to do a drill for basically the western side of I-25, kind of pretty much south of downtown Monument, west to the mountains, and then north to county line. But I'm pretty sure that's been put on hold, and that's not going to happen. I'm not sure it's even going to happen here in 2021, but we're hoping to get that back on the books and get folks used to evacuating like that, or training or practicing.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And so it's good for both the citizens, the residents, and the professionals as well, so they can see the volume of traffic and the concerns that come about that happen during that. So I have another question from Julie. And when do you think you'll have a schedule for this spring summer chipping program?
That's another great question. We actually have put out to the residents to get us there, to the HOAs that we've been working with to get us their dates. Their dates are back to us, and I'm working with my staff right now to make sure that we can meet each one of those dates that have been submitted. And I'm hoping as soon as I return from vacation to be able to finalize all those dates with each individual homeowners association that's already submitted dates to me. We already have, I'm pulling from memory right now, I want to say 12 dates already reserved, and we're just making sure we can fulfill all of those dates right now.
Cool. Hopefully one is May 22nd for a certain group that likes to wear orange shirts.
It
We
is.
have a question from Lucy Bauer. Do you have to get grants to pay for the programs, or do you have enough funding in your department for it all?
That's a really good question. A lot of folks don't know. Currently today, the fire district stance is the grants provided us the equipment, 50% cost of the equipment. We match that 50%, so we paid for the other 50% out of district funds. And we're paying our district staff, currently our staff overtime to come in and do the chipping event. So the fire district supports this program. And then we're looking for the future as to what's the future of the program. And that may include that we would bring on some seasonal staff to staff the chipping program on a more continuous basis than just weekends. So that's one of the things we're moving in the direction now. We do have a new fire chief. He strongly supports the program. I really appreciate working with Chief Kovacs in this, and Chief Kovacs joined us from Orange County, California, and they have a huge urban interface program there as well. And I think you'll see a lot of positive changes coming out of this relationship now for Tri-Lakes and Monument, particularly in this area.
Yeah, Jamie, I think what you did to establish that chipping program here is a good model. There are other districts that have it as well, but the path that you took to get the grant for it, I think is something that we should try to help to promote for those other districts that don't have a chipping program currently. And that's one area that I think I see going forward that we can help maybe get some of our political leaders to help with too, and provide the funding for those grant programs so that we can get programs like this where we can get energy with folks to do the stuff that they have, or get rid of the slash that they have at their level instead of worrying about the trying to take care of the big trees in the forest. We have plenty to work with 10 feet and below here, and I think your program is fantastic. We're so excited to have you have it fully in place now. We have one more question from Ed, and when we create, it goes, when we create and publish community evacuation plans and maps, should we clear them with law enforcement or firefighters first?
That's a great question. Absolutely, Ed. I think you would want to run those by certainly your firefighters, but most importantly, the law enforcement agencies. Again, I'm not going to just say it's law enforcement, but I would say Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management. They actually have law enforcement personnel that work for them. Dave Husted is one of those folks. He's a police officer working in OEM. And let's run that through that program, or let's run that by them and give them input as we make those evacuation maps, so we're all aware of what that's going to be. But yes, absolutely, we would want to do that.
Okay. One more question from Craig. How wide should the cut branches be to go through the chipper?
I don't know that I've ever had the question of how wide they should be. I have had them diameter of the trunk, so down at the base of the limb. We can go up to at least 12 inches, I think, on our chipper, and I think it might go as high as 16, but I don't remember that off the top of my head, unfortunately, right now. But there's not necessarily a width as far as, like, if you think of all the branches and the leaves that come off of it, but the diameter of the tree itself, 12 to 16 inches is as large as we can chip with our chipper. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, Craig, we'll talk a little bit about that too when we come to the chipping day techniques here. And Lisa has a term called gift wrapping, and how we set the branches. But basically, you keep all the branches with the cut in one direction, and then you feed the cut in, and then so everything else will feed in there. And we'll talk a little bit more about branches that come out to 90 degrees and those types of things in that particular session. So great questions, folks. Thank you. Any more for Jamie before we move on? Okay, well, thank you, Jamie. Really appreciate your time and your willingness to join us on vacation. here.
Very glad to
Pres-
be here.
Yeah, and so we've had a great partnership with Jamie the entire time, and I think it just gets stronger every year. So we greatly appreciate you being with us today here, and look forward to working with you going forward.
Hey, folks, this is Andre again. Any questions on this before we move on to the forestry side? Okay, I don't see any, so I'll continue the video.
Our next presenter today is Dave Root, and he's a forester with the Colorado State Forest Service. And I'll hand it over to you, Dave. Hey, Dave, you're on mute right now. I have that same problem.
You know, the muted part might have been the best part of the presentation, but we'll see. Sorry about that. Yeah, who we are, the Colorado State Forest Service. I would like to, if I could, get hold of the fellow who thought that it was a good idea to call us a Forest Service back in the dawn of time when we were established, because everyone confuses us with the U.S. Forest Service, the National Forest people. That's not who we are. We actually don't even own any land. But who we are the Extension and Outreach Division of the Warner College of Forestry and Natural Resources at Colorado State University. And basically, we are the university's extension service for forestry. So if you want to know how to bake a cake or grow your garden, you call the CSU extension. If you want to know how to manage your forest, you call us. We have, I should know this number, but I don't. We have 15 or 20 field offices located throughout the state, and each field office serves probably 1 or 2 or 3 counties. By the way, here in the first slide is our website, and I think Andre has, he'll probably show it to you later, an example of some of the literature and the information sheets that you can get from our website. Another thing you can get there that you might be interested in if you don't already have a community wildfire protection plan and you want to know what those things tend to look like, every community wildfire protection plan, or CWPP, that has been written in the state of Colorado is actually on our website, and you can look at anybody's that you might want to use for an example, or just to give you an idea of what those are and what they're all about. And can we go to the next slide? I'm going to try to keep this very short tonight, so hopefully we'll also have a lot of time for questions. What we do, we aren't a regulatory agency. That we don't enforce any laws, rules, or regulations. We are strictly established to give you technical assistance and information. So, you know, we cannot really even enter a person's property without their asking us to come out first. And we don't force anybody to do defensible space or forest management. It's entirely through the landowner's own choice. But what we can do is work with individuals and communities to help them achieve their forest management goals, which include wildfire mitigation, but also forest health, tree planting, windbreaks, things like that. What we're going to talk mostly about is wildfire, because that's kind of my job here in the Woodland Park Field Office. And can we go to the next slide? I talked about, we have many field offices throughout the state. And again, if you go to our website, you can find whichever field office serves your locale. Ours serves El Paso, Teller, and most of Park County. And I need to say this because I know there's a lot of you who are in the Bailey Platte Canyon area. Somewhere from the top of Kenosha Pass, kind of going northeast to southeast, is a nebulous line that none of us really know exactly where it is. But that northeastern portion of Park County that is in the Platte Canyon is actually served from our Golden office. And it gets very confusing sometimes, but even if you call our office in Woodland Park, we will get you to the right place. So, you know, Platte Canyon, probably most of the people who are on the call tonight have worked with our office and know where it is and know who to call. But if you call any of our offices, we'll figure out how to get you to the right place. And the map I have there on the screen is from the Colorado Forest Atlas, which is also on our website if you have a mind to look at GIS programs. And it's really a kind of an atlas, a GIS program that you can compare wildfire hazard everywhere across the state, but it has many pages and many maps, including fire intensity, likelihood of burning, flame length, housing density, which is kind of what this map is. But our WUI, which stands for Wildland Urban Interface, throughout the three counties, we have quite a bit. I mean, even to the point that we have designated WUI, and I should explain that term. If there are high density housing developments adjacent to wildland fires, that's the wildland urban interface. You know, even out in the far reaches of South Park, where you would think they have only grass and no trees, we have little spots, little neighborhoods of wildland urban interface communities. If you notice, the big purple spot is the city of Colorado Springs, which includes about 400,000, give or take, people. And thank God that the city of Colorado Springs has a fire department who service most of those people. So I'm not run too ragged trying to service the entire city of Colorado Springs. Obviously, we concentrate on the rural areas outside of the big city. And, you know, our big area of wildland urban interface is kind of right smack dab up against the Front Range, both north and south of Colorado Springs. And it would be interesting to know how many people that really incorporates. But it's a big number. And thank heavens that I have people like our fire districts and Andre and Lisa and community leaders in Firewise communities who are there to help me out. If it weren't for the partnerships, I would be pretty much buried under a pile of work. And can we kind of flip up to the next slide? Thank you. So, you know, if I were to describe my job, really, I don't unfortunately spend a whole lot of time going out and meeting individual landowners, although I do that and I like to do that. So call me if you need help or advice. But I think really most of what I do is I kind of supply the ammunition to the Firewise resident leaders or the community spark plugs or people like Andre and Lisa. You know, I give them the facts that they can use to go meet with communities and homeowners, and I give them the ammunition that they use to persuade those groups that they need to take a look at their problem and start working together to address it. So, you know, I give you guys the ammo and you fire it. And can we go to the next slide? You know, speaking of communities and community spark plugs and community volunteers and all the people who are really going out there helping me effectively do my job, you know, we like to work with really anyone, but the most efficient way to do it is through a community organization or a volunteer organization. And towards that end, in our field office, we actually have 41 Firewise communities within the 3 counties. And that does not include probably about an equal number of Firewise communities within the city of Colorado Springs that are again administered through the Colorado Springs Fire Department Fire Marshal's office. We have 47 community wildfire protection plans, and those actually service communities from all 3 of the counties. Actually have a county level plan. You know, it goes down to, I think the smallest one I've ever done was 6 houses at the end of a cul-de-sac. And, you know, if you're interested in these things, community does not mean that you have to have an organized homeowners association or some legal entity that commissions the plan. It can simply be a group of concerned neighbors who want to work together. For example, I don't know if anybody from Colorado Estates is on the workshop tonight, but Colorado Estates is an area of homes and properties in Jamie's district that really it's not an HOA or even one unique subdivision. One of the, you know, the community spark plugs just got together and rounded up the neighbors and convinced them to work together, and that kind of nebulous neighborhood, we drew a boundary around a bunch of properties. The map here is the example, and they're working together with Jamie and the community and actually developing their own community wildfire protection plan. The map here is actually probably one of the most important things that you would get either from a Firewise assessment or a community wildfire protection plan. But that is the fire hazard map for their community. And that map, I actually sat down and drew that. It's not something that I got off the Colorado Forest Atlas website, although I did use the information as input. But I actually sat down at my desk and drew that map, and then I go out to the community and kind of ground truth it. And I think probably that's one of the most important things in a fire-wise assessment or a community wildfire protection plan is that map that graphically illustrates the observed fire hazard in your community and where the priorities ought to be. And from there, you get to the portion where you create a plan to address the fire hazards in the community. One of the things we also do that is one of our programs is I spend a lot of my time administering various cost share grants. Some of you may have heard the names State Fire Assistance, Furworm. Those are a couple grant programs that we have that they vary sometimes depending on the pot of money, but usually they will cost share your projects at a rate of reimburse the landowner 50% of the cost of doing the work on their property, whether that's defensible space or fuel breaks or whatever. And I don't think I'm kind of giving anybody unfair advance notice, but tomorrow morning we will officially be announcing that we're accepting applications for the forest restoration and fire mitigation. Let me get this acronym straight. Forest restoration and wildfire mitigation grants, which go by the acronym of FURWORM. But the state legislature just recently added $6 million to that program. And now we had some previous grants that were awaiting funding from the first go around that we had from this year. But we now have probably about $4.5 to $5 million extra dollars in that program. Those applications are going to be announced tomorrow morning. And we have never had this level of money in that program before. And should you be interested in cost share for one of your fire mitigation projects, I would highly recommend that you apply for it for this go round, because we may never have that level of money in it again. So your odds of having a successful and funded project are probably as good as they're ever going to get. And if you're interested, contact whichever field office serves your area and talk to the forester to get the application information and instructions. It will probably be on the website sometime tomorrow, but you will need to work with your local field office and your forester to fill out the grant and provide the information. And I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but I do want to say if you have something in mind, the way grants compete is the bigger your project and the larger landscape level effect that you can show will give your grant a better chance of being funded. So if you have a project and there is another neighborhood or other people in your area who also have one, your odds of success are going to be vastly increased if you actually work together and do one large application that covers maybe several neighborhoods. Anyway, I got off on a tangent, so let's go to the next slide. And, you know, where do we go in the future? I think in the past, as I mentioned, we have a whole lot of Firewise communities and a whole lot of communities that are working together with one another within their community. And that is truly the most effective way to address wildfire hazard. But now that, now that I have 41 Firewise communities I'm working with, I think the next step beyond that is we need to put more effort into having our communities work in concert with one another. Grants are one area that can certainly benefit from communities cooperating with other communities, but our fire hazard is regional. It's bigger than any one community, as Jamie pointed out. So what I would really like to see in the future is some communities working through the region. And one of the big hurdles that we've crossed just recently here locally towards that goal is Teller County has established its countywide regional wildfire council. That's kind of a big step for us because it's the first even countywide wildfire council that we have in this area. In fact, it's so new, we're still trying to work on developing what the structure is and kind of what the bylaws and the rules will be. But that is a great and tremendous step forward for us. El Paso County, if you're familiar with it, the Northern El Paso Community Organization, or NEPCO, which is kind of an umbrella association of homeowners associations in the kind of northeast area of El Paso County. About a year ago, they took the move to actually establish a wildfire mitigation committee. Again, that's a big thing that people are starting to think about, not just their own neighborhoods, but the entire region. And if anybody's getting started just within your community, by all means, that's your first priority. But also begin to think of, your neighbors, not necessarily those that are directly adjacent, but even those that are just in the same area, get together with them and start working as a group. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do. And another little soapbox in closing that I like to jump on, when you're developing a plan or working with your community or other communities, and you're trying to persuade people to come out and join you, I think one of the most important things that we need to do that we haven't done, frequently in the past, but certainly talk about the hazard. We can't avoid that, but we need to talk about successes, not failures. So if you're out trying to sell the idea of fire mitigation, talk more about the homes that didn't burn than the ones that did. I think that persuades people a great deal more rather than gloom and doom. So that pretty much covers what I had to say. If there are any questions or whatnot, there's my contact information if you need to get hold of me or hold of one of our district offices. But any questions, let's go ahead and have a question and answer session.
You're muted, Andre.
Yeah, I just noticed that too. Thank you. First question comes from Smita. Could you share the link to the application packet? And Lisa, is that the one that you have there that you posted?
That's the link to our website. And
okay.
I'm not sure that the package has gone up on the website, but if you go to the main web page, when Diana up at our state office gets that material posted, there will surely be a link to that on our main webpage. So I'd go to that csfs.colostate.edu.
And Dave, when do you think the packets will be due? What is the due date for the application?
Oh, you would ask me that, and it's in my notes. It is due, and it will also be on the webpage. They are due to your local field office on May 19th. So, as is typical with grants, you don't have a lot of opportunity to do it and get it back to us. So, yeah, work closely with your local forester.
Hey, Dave, this is Suzanne Adams at Cripple Creek Mountain Estates. As you know, we're working on our CWPP. Does that have to be completed in order to apply for this forest restoration and wildfire mitigation grants?
Not at all. You'll get some points if you can show the scientific, which would be the CWPP basis for your project. And in cases like yours, I kind of weasel word it. I say the first draft of the CWPP identifies, these as your highest priorities. And, sometimes the reviewers kind of make a snarky comment or two, but they don't reject your application. Also, the Teller County Community Wildfire Protection Plan, it can also be a source of validating that project. And also simply say that the project was recommended after an evaluation of the community by the Colorado State Forest Service. And I know time's short and I don't want to take up too much time, but I know you have sent me an email that I haven't got around to answering yet, but I did take a quick trip through the community just on my way back to the office. So I can probably legitimately give you some advice about developing a project. And so contact me here in the next week or so and we'll get started on that.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll hold it from there. There's other conversation, but really not relevant. It's kind of specific to the neighborhood that asked the question or the person is from here. So any general questions about Dave's presentation before we move on here? Okay, so with that, we'll move on to neighborhood assessments and start talking about that. So question, why should your neighborhood and team do a neighborhood assessment? Well, it's important that it gives you a feel for what your community is about, and then also outlines your hazards and understands what plans you have in place, but then also it can identify resources and preparedness considerations, which can be used by the responders here. So if you have a CWPP, then or any form of neighborhood assessment, and you share that with your fire department, it gives them an understanding of what they have available to them and what the risks are within your neighborhood. It also gives you focus areas. It's important to have a plan and know where you're working and identify your resource requirements, and then look at some of the concerns that you have within your neighborhood regarding evacuations or some considerations for preparedness. And then, it gives you a general plan for how fast you plan to work within your neighborhood to address the risks that you have within it. And in some instances, we'll talk about communication to residents. That kind of changes over time, but it does provide a way to document it in case you have changeover in your group. And then, of course, how you're going to do coordination with external agencies. We're going to talk about 3 different types. One is a community wildfire risk assessment. That's a pretty basic assessment. And you'll see that that's posted in the chat from Lisa. And then there's a detailed but intermediate level, which is called Fire Adapted Community Self-Assessment Tool, or FACSAT. And right after Lisa's post was mine with the FACSAT. And then there's an advanced plan, which is a community wildfire protection plan. And we'll go over to Dave's site here in a little bit here. But with each one of these, really an important piece to the development of that plan or that assessment is some form of work with your local fire or forestry professional here. And you heard Jamie talk about it in his speech or his presentation. He's going to give you a different viewpoint than you would see from a forester. And same thing from Dave Root's perspective. He's going to give you the non-responder, but something that you can use to enhance your preparedness or the protection for your home. Having that neighborhood tour, as we've talked about in the past, allows you to develop a relationship with them. They get to know the strength and weakness of your neighborhood and the potential staging areas here. And you want to do that on a regular basis and letting them know that the changes that you're making with the neighborhood. Remember, we were working with Steve last year, Steve Jerislow from Black Forest Park. And just before we started work with them, the fire department took a drive through, and this was prior to them doing any effort. So I would encourage you to maintain that relationship with them. So when you're starting to do the work, then they can see that you're an active community in that area. So the risk may be high in your neighborhood, but now you're starting to work on that, and they can gain confidence with coming into your neighborhood if there's a fire in the area. And then, like we talked about with Dave Root's presentation, they may inform you of grants which can help you fund your risk reduction projects. I'll tell you, grants not my area of expertise here, and getting help with that is really important. I would recommend, I think Nicholas posted and also Lisa posted the ARC Collaborative, and also working with FACO, they have grant related folks here. What I'm trying to do is in the future, try to get a better lead time for understanding when these grants are becoming available, because really the work that really helps you ensure that you get the grant is done well in advance. Usually the grant program is open for a very short period of time, and it's shortly after the announcement. So if we can become better understanding or gain a better understanding of what those requirements are, then we can help folks get prepared much faster. So when the drop comes on the notice, that you can get all the information in and then get it vetted and submitted. And then, yeah, I would also recommend having multiple people participate in that trip with the fire and forestry professionals so they can hear it as well, especially your doubting Thomases. If you can get those folks involved in that trip and hear the professionals talk, then I think it helps your cause. So we'll go into the 3 assessments. We'll start with the community wildfire risk assessment. The strengths are that, it's a really short assessment. It's only 5 pages, mostly narrative in nature. It's for a neighborhood that is looking to cover just the basics. So if you have a small neighborhood with only a few folks, Sandra, I think your neighborhood is a good example of that. Maybe you just want a small plan like this. You can also use this information to help you with your applications, and definitely can be used for a FireWise submission. The concerns, it's less comprehensive than you see with other templates, and Some grants may require additional information, so it may not be suitable for them. So it all depends on your grant. These are the first 2 pages of the form and give you basic background on the, the purpose, who it's for, what you need, and basically instructions on how to do it. And then gives you blocks of information to be able to expand. Those blocks expand as you put more information into it, but you're looking at you're defining your community, looking at your wildfire risk and your preparedness activities, because that matters here. And then look at your strengths and vulnerabilities within that community, and then your evacuation readiness. And I think the last page is, talking about your plan of action and what you're going to do with that. So it's very basic form, but easy to do. And there's a nice simplicity to that allows you to get to the heart of the matter too. So you can kind of get lost in the details with some of these forms, but this one is a relatively simple form and maybe could be used as a first step. Nothing tells you that you have to stop with that initial basic assessment. You can use that as a launching point for conducting or using the other ones. The second example is the FactSet, or the Fire Adapted Community Self-Assessment Tool. You can see the link there, and you'll see these in the slides too, or you'll get a copy of the slides so you can have a readily available access to the link if you want to give that to your neighborhood. The strengths, it's definitely comprehensive. It gives you a lot more detail and a lot more range of considerations here. I still think you can do this despite it being, I think it's 34 pages, something in that neighborhood. It can be done without getting a professional involved with it, at least to give you the main elements with it and help you. It provides criteria to help you categorize risks, and depends upon the answers that you provide. It's definitely free. It's on the website here and can be used to support grant requests, most of them. And then the concern, it does take a little bit longer, and you might have to consult a little bit more with the fire and forestry professionals, but I really like this particular tool. So it starts off here. You can see the first 2 pages with the cover, and then also the table of contents here with all the different steps here. 3 main sections for you to work. The first one is a general overview. So I say they're listed 4, but I really think that there are only 3 to worry about here. The left side shows an example of the areas and the questions that you fill out with each one of these, and it walks you through in this section each one of the risk areas. One of the good things I like about the definition or the descriptors help you define your particular risk level and or capability level as appropriate to the section that you're working. So I really like the fact that this form gives you very specific definitions for the risk or capability area. So after you go through the first step of your wildfire values or hazards and risks, then you go into your adaptation needs here and working through those different levels. So taking a look at each one of them, you have your summary rating that you can circle for each one based on the definitions that we saw earlier, and then look at the trending piece. I think this is a very good aspect of consideration that you don't get with the first form that we showed, and that, hey, are we staying where we are we improving, or are we getting worse in a particular area? And then the fourth or the third step, in my view, creating a community fire adaptation action plan walks you through all the different areas that you want to take as a group to be able to mitigate and reduce your risk. And then the last plan type is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. The link that you see there takes you right to the Colorado State Forest Service's website for CWPPs. The contact for them is listed as you see here. I will tell you, it's been my experience so far that it's been more difficult to reach the State Forest Service folks or Colorado State Forest Service folks since Dave retired. I think at some point it would be good for us to do outreach to them to see, what their workload concerns are and what's a better contact. I know the phone number works. I'm not sure how often they're available to call. I've never really tried to call. I've really worked mostly with Dave in the past and through email with them. So I would say that you might need to be a little bit more persistent with them here. I think they may be more challenged with Dave being gone now. So some of the strengths with the CWPP, hugely comprehensive. It's very, very detailed, covers many different aspects that you don't do or consider in the other assessment tools, such as looking at your topography, looking at your history. You do have the local resources, but it's really, really detailed with it. And you're looking at gathering information that with pictures and then diagrams of the neighborhood. And then you're looking at developing a multi-year action plan. It's really important aspect of that particular assessment. And I've not heard of any grant that a CWPP does not meet the requirements for. So I think it's great to review the other ones that are available, many to copy in terms of format. All of the ones that are at the Colorado State Forest Service's website have been approved by them. So if someone's performed a review of them, I think the format is a great element to follow, especially if there's a neighborhood near yours already and it's not done. Concerns, it takes a while to do. You're not going to do this overnight. It's going to take a while, approximately 6 months from the folks that I've heard that have started from scratch. You do need many people in the neighborhood to help you with it. If it's just 1 or 2 people, it's an exorbitant amount of work for those 2 folks because there's a lot of narrative elements to it. So you would want to have, multiple people to make the work a little bit easier overall, and you could probably get through it faster. It definitely requires a review by the forestry professional, and I'm not sure if the cost is accurate now, but I know the Colorado State Forest Service does charge for review of those plans. And just as an example, this is an actual view of the ones that are available within the website. At least this week, I don't know if anybody's posted anything in the last couple of days. It's usually pretty slow with changes here. I'll go to the website here in a second, but just took a couple of snips from Woodmore's plan. It was originally created in 2006, but updated in 2017. Look at the number of folks that were involved on the right-hand side and who were participants in that. Lots of folks that helped with it. And then also, you could see the people who helped with doing some of the reviews at the bottom right. A lot more sections within the table of contents here because you're covering a lot more areas, but you go through a lot of detail in terms of the hazards that you're dealing with in the area. And then none of the other plans had appendices in it. And this one, the CWPs do, along with the list of figures. Here's an example of one of the diagrams that you see, and then pictures of the history, and then also some of the narrative elements within the document. After you complete it, you of course submit it to one of your fire and forestry professionals for review as appropriate. And with that, I'm going to get out of this and then go back over to the website. And when you go to the community wildfire protection plans section here, this is an overview, and there are multiple tabs at that website. It does give you a lot of information. I also wanted to point out there are different other linkages that you should explore while you're there. fire adapted communities, that's where the fact set comes from. And then also Firewise USA, if you're interested in applying for Firewise recognition. But to view the CWPPs, they're at this tab here, and then you can see them by county. So you can go right to the ease for us if you want to go that, and it takes you there. And then you can look at any one of the CWPPs that we were listed here. And I clicked on the Woodmore CWPP earlier, and then you can kind of see that all posted online, all available for use and sharing. Anyone that has the ability to translate the PDFs into Word, that saves you a ton of time in terms of formatting and trying to get things in here. But look at the one that, you know, matches your area or is nearby your area for review. And I think it's really helpful to see what other folks went through in terms of their assessment. That said, there are many CWPPs out there. We wouldn't have this program if we didn't see a lack of action related to that. So that plan is only as good as the action that's taken within it to help reduce your fire risk here. Any questions on the assessments, assessment vehicles that we presented? Let's see. Lisa, do I still have a video prior fire marshal tour through Arrowwood 3? I'm not sure if that I have the video from that. I know we had pictures of it in the presentation that John Vincent provided in one of the community wildfire information fairs, but I don't know that I have the video yet. Well, I don't know if I still have it anymore. But for my Arrowwood 3 resident neighbor friends, Deb Fiala was with me when we took that tour around. She's there in our on our board and has been on our board for a while and been very, very present in supporting our wildfire chipping efforts. Okay, we only have a few minutes left here and wanted to mention the homework for the next round here. And what we're looking at is that you schedule a tour with your fire or forestry professional for neighborhoods without an assessment. Determine when your initial meeting for that Firewise team to start development of a plan, and then neighborhoods with an existing assessment. Look at your prior three, I'm sorry, I should have had 22. Determine your 3 highest priorities here for unaddressed areas within your plan. And take a look at those and determine what you want to work on. And it could be a 2-year plan, honestly, instead of a plan for just this year, because if you want to focus on a particular area, there may be more work that's required. For instance, I've seen some neighborhoods talk about working on the easement areas for ingress and egress within the neighborhood. So then you can focus on that. And if you can't cover all of that within a particular year, you may decide that that's going to be a 2-year or a 3-year project here. So it all depends on what's important for you and your neighborhood along the way. Before I go into final questions and discussion, I did want to emphasize that we are not going to meet next week because we're going to honor spring break for the folks that have that particular consideration for family members here. And we will meet once again on April 4th, but that's a change also. We are going to do the homeowner or the Firewise assessment exercise where we are going to do a practical application of the checklist that we accomplished here in modules 2 and 3. And we're going to perform a demo at one site where we talk about the checklist and the particular concerns. And then we're going to go to a second house and then let folks do their own assessment, and we'll come back together and discuss the particular actions that we found. And it's more not to critique the homeowner, but to get your practice in looking at the checklist and things that need to be addressed with them. So I will send out the information on that here over the next week. It's will be in the Arrowwood 3 neighborhood, which is north of Highway 105 and east of the Woodmore subdivision here. So I'll give you more details on that. Before I forget, Heather, if you could send me your address. I know where Elizabeth lives, but I'm not sure the address for you, and then we'll start up at 4 o'clock. Before I forget, 4 o'clock on this on the April the 4th. And we'll spend about an hour at the first site and then move over to the next one. So usually it takes us about 2 hours to do the session, but we're going to start at 4 o'clock on April the 4th. And I will send that out an email, and I'll try to emphasize that in bold red letters or blue letters, or however you can get for folks to be able to see it. And as we get closer, if we have weather concerns, we'll address that, and I'll send a message out to folks to let them know. So, but no meeting next week. I probably should send out a reminder on Monday next week to remind folks not to drive out next week, and just save that for the following week.
And we might, whoever is interested after the April 4th on-site demonstration, we might, whoever wants to can meet for dinner after that monument.
Yep.
And I was just thinking, this homework for this week, scheduling a tour with your fire professional. I realize that we all of you have issues with that. So what's the intention of that homework? Like, if you're struggling to get that done, remember what the point of it is. So like I would say, start with, make a satellite image of your neighborhood and to show your forestry professional exactly what you need to look at with them. And then they might not feel as daunted, find a way to get them to say yes.
And
So
I think a good,
finding
hey Russ, you came across broken. Could you repeat, please?
I guess one of the challenges is finding your forestry professional. Like, who is that?
Yeah, initially I thought we would be able to get someone from the Colorado State Forest Service out for Eastern El Paso County. I'm not quite sure who we could get out, honestly. So I guess we should maybe explore that a little bit more. Maybe the wildland guys would be able to help too from the county here for your
What's their
particular
official
area.
name?
We
El
should be
Paso
able to get
County
that.
Wildland Team? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Or
Yes. They're
the
actually with the sheriff's office, not the PPROBM.
Oh, okay. I forgot about them. Or then the other option I was thinking about with an example, because like Peyton Fire Department is all volunteers and they don't do this very much, but let's give them an opportunity to shine and let's ask them. That's why I said that example about the make an image of exactly what you need looked at. Invite them to come out. Invite them to begin the conversation with you.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin relationships here, and there are, I guess, ways to get folks that are not locally involved to go up their chain to ask, if we could get some assistance. We've been trying to contact them. Makes it a little difficult if I don't want to make them bitter with it. So I think I'd probably start with a phone call to the number that I showed in the chat here before jumping the gun with going out to their supervision. But if we're not getting anything from them, then I think it's best to find out what other avenues can we get too. If they're busy, I completely understand that. But I would think that maybe at some point, if it's not this week or the next week, but maybe next month, that you would be able to get someone that'd be able to come out. But not to get any responses back is not very customer service oriented, and they're not directly public servants, so you have to balance that. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you than Russ, but that's the same. We've been going through the same struggles. I tried to contact them to get them to be on tonight's session, and I got no response back from them. So
But Andre, won't they charge us? They charge per hour.
I think they charge. I know they charge for assessing your CWPP. I'm not sure that they charge for a visit. If that's the case, then that's definitely a consideration for even asking for them.
I think that did come up in last year's class, that Hilltop or the neighborhood up on 10, where was that? Up by church. They had that issue where they were wondering if they were going to get charged and they couldn't get the Forest Service to come. But we at that time we had a little in on that one. We knew that the Forest Service was going to be in Woodmore already anyway. And I begged them to please also drive through that neighborhood because it was just a few miles away. So yeah, maybe they will charge you, but it's hopefully your HOA will understand that it's worth getting that investment too. So we'll have to see.
Well, so I talked to them last year about doing this assessment, and the prices have increased. And when we did it, I think, Andre, what was it, 5-6 years ago or something? It was around a little over $800.
Oh,
So the
wow.
price you quoted is going to be correct. It's going to be close to 1,500 for a neighborhood like Arrowwood 3.
Was that the Forest Service?
Yes, I
Wow.
spoke to Dave Root's replacement about this.
Oh, wow. Well, that's good. I was not aware, Elizabeth. I'm sorry.
That's worse than I was imagining. Yeah. So that's why I'm trying to come up with alternatives too. Like, the point of this homework is, number one, to try and get connected with whoever you can to help support you through this process. Maybe it is the Forest Service. Maybe it is your fire department. Maybe it is the wildland fire guys. Maybe you're just going to get started and do your own, analyzing of these maps, make your own map, show the risk areas and get started. Just show us that you're getting started on understanding what your whole neighborhood's risk is also.
Well,
yourself.
so I brought it up in the chat a little bit. And again, last year I contacted the fire department, and it was Jamie Baumgarten who I spoke with. And he said he just they don't have time to do these assessments. And like I said, it was during the summer when I asked, and he was super busy with fires that were popping up and also the chipping days that they're doing. So I don't know if it's different in spring or in fall, winter, but and we had other people in our neighborhood who tried to get him come out on an individual basis, and they just didn't have time.
All right. So I venture to say that both groups will be represented on the 8th. So I'm going to take that up with them whenever we get a chance to speak with them on it. And if the labor is more involved with doing the chipping, I can completely understand it. Usually the chipping happens on the weekends, sometimes during the week, but I know they're challenged with getting folks out to do the chipping because they're having to pay them overtime to do that here. So it may be time to have that discussion too, Lisa, that we talk with Robin, and this can become a cert type of skill set, and maybe we can grow a group of folks that are interested in doing that. Like Boulder Wildfire Partners does it all for their own neighborhood, and they are all volunteers. And although Lisa and I are energized, we are only 2 people.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
Boulder
we can grow
Wildfire
that.
Partners is actually part of the county.
They're part of the county.
Mhm.
Okay, I thought it was
I mean, they have volunteers, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
So one of the reasons, okay, so yeah,
Mm.
and one of the reasons we want you to learn how to fill out your own wildfire assessment checklist is so you can analyze your own property, but we haven't, none of us, yeah, to analyze your whole neighborhood is different, but just head in that direction and find out what you can and see where the roadblocks are this year, and maybe it'll be different than it was last year. I hope it'll be different in a lot of ways than what you're running into. Huh.
Yeah, maybe we can set up something with Jamie and the Forest Service guys to have maybe a neighborhood assessment day, sort of like the fair, but you have a day where people can come in and talk about their neighborhood concerns. They don't have to tour every neighborhood in the area, but at least they could be able to meet face to face with them and talk about the particular issues along the way. So that's food for thought, taking a different approach. So if it's hard to get them out to every other neighborhood, is there an event that we can create that brings everybody to them and say, hey, these folks will be available to talk about your particular issues. Now, the 8th is one of those days where they're going to be around to be able to talk to them about that. So I would take advantage of that date to talk with them. Last year, Jamie was there with a table, and also the Forest Service guys were there too.
Yeah, they
Here,
won't be
so
there this
I'm
year.
not sure who's participating this year. We'll see that day, but at least I know the fire department will be there. So.
Yeah.
But
We want to encourage you to go out there and keep trying.
okay, I know we're running long. Any other questions from folks before we sign off tonight? Okay, just a reminder, no meeting next week, meeting in 2 weeks from tonight. Same bat time, same bat channel. Actually not, different bat channel. We're gonna meet at one of the houses. So
Different
just
bat
look
time
at
too.
one of the actually it's a different bat time too. So just look for the email for the meeting time and location here, and we'll judge whether or not we have any weather concerns as we get closer. So with that, we'll conclude tonight's session, and you're all cleared to drop. Thank you once again for participating.
Thank you, Andre and Lisa. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you very much.
So Andre and Lisa, I volunteered my house, but I guess I didn't realize the time. And I'm not going to be home at 4.
Okay. What time do you think you'll be home?
The problem is, I'm a tennis coach and we have a match that starts at 4.
Oh, okay.
It's at PR, but I probably won't be home until 6 or like tonight we had a match and I didn't get home until 6:30.
Well,
Okay.
one option is you could let us tromp all around your property and we'll give you the results.
I am fine with that.
Okay.
I am fine with that. If there's a lot to be written down, so.
We'll tell you what, we'll start with Heather's house and then do the demo there, and then we'll go over to your house after it, and maybe we'll still be there when you come back from your tennis match.
Okay. Okay.
But thank you for allowing us to come out. That's awesome that you're letting us do that. And if it's a concern, please let me know, and then we'll find a different house. But I appreciate you letting us come in right now.
No, I am fine. Yeah, that will work, actually.
And let's see. Well, we'll see if we can, we've played hit or miss in terms of recording the session. Here, we've kind of discussed that in the past. We did record one a couple of years ago, and it gets a little wonky, but we'll see how that works out this time. So then maybe that if we're able to record it, then we can just share that with you so that you can see what was discussed.
Oh, you're not going to write it on that checklist for me?
Everyone is going to write on at your house for the second one. So everyone will do their own individual ones after that. So we can see if folks are willing to share that. We kind of compile it and talk about what everyone sees on it. But yeah, we'll definitely have the forms there and have them filling them out. I will walk through and do my own version just for notes for me, so I can make sure I talk about it when we're doing the review from everyone else.
And
Okay.
Emil is saying he can be a backup site, although that is a far drive.
Yeah,
But Emil, we'll
Yeah.
I'll come bug you at your house if we don't get there with the group too, if you want.
Well, I was trying to be cooperative. Everybody else is, well, not everybody else, but obviously Elizabeth here is offering it. So if the other home drops out, this could be a location. We're going to fail in some places. We have wood deck against the front and a wood deck against the back. So, oy vey. But we do have kind of a 5-foot zone, except for the decks, but the decks are, 50 feet of deck around the house. So, yikes.
and we're a Firewise 12-step program here, okay? Yeah. Yeah, like I told you guys last week, I have my own problems and issues here that
Yeah.
we have all of those bites. And actually, when we were doing the assessments, we'll be doing that on my anniversary. And I hadn't gotten kicked out yet, and yeah, we've lasted 31 years. So that's why I say I'd rather have
Right, yeah,
I will
congratulations.
deal with this and kick me out yet.
So Andre won't be joining us for dinner because he's going to take Kelly out to the Mona Lisa.
Right.
We do that. We do that the weekend before. We
Oh.
don't like to do that during the week.
Oh, okay.
Well, you
Melting
need a house with some problems, otherwise it'd be boring. This house is perfect. Oh, great.
Right. Yeah, there's lots to
We had those. We've done those in the past. Like we did the one in Bailey, and
Oh,
my goodness, the lady had a wraparound deck around the whole house, and it hadn't been maintained, and it'd been there, I'm guessing, about 20 years or so. And she was at the top of a mountain or a hill there, so all the fires moving in her direction. The best thing we can tell her is you really need to
Run.
make an early evacuation decision.
Yeah, right. Well,
And it would cost her tens of thousands of dollars to rectify the issues that we had here. You could rip down the deck and build another one, but if you put another wooden deck up, you still have the same problem. But
yeah, we are going to be having a new deck put in the front, and that's not going to be wood, based on this program that I've been part of.
well, good.
Right, in the beginning, my builder doesn't know that. The deck builder doesn't know it's not, because we haven't talked in a few weeks, but he'll know it now. No wood joists, right? It's going to be metal, so everything's wood now. It's all redwood, so I hate to see it go, but that's the way it goes.
and also the
Yeah.
skirting, and they emphasize making sure there's no fire underneath the deck. It's
Right.
more important to avoid fire under the deck than on the deck.
Yeah. Well, under the deck it's a wood joist, so, but under the deck we have cement and stone, fortunately, in the front.
Yeah.
And back is another story. So but that's not for this year. We can't really do both front and back in the same year.
Knowledge is power, Emil.
Yeah. No, this is
Baby steps.
very
Well,
informative.
if you go through the list, it's like, I'm not going to fix that. I'm going to accept that risk. Like, I don't have a automatically closing door between the house and the garage. That's not something I'm interested in, but I'll pick and choose. Not everything I can get 100%.
Understand?
You're right. Knowing what your risks are. Yeah.
Okay, folks, well, take care, and thank you for continuing to come back. Really appreciate you continuing to stick with us through the program here.
You again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andre and Lisa. Take care.
See you soon.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye-bye.
So we don't have to record anymore. that was really great. It's really too bad. I don't know what to say about those questions at the end.
Yeah.
How can they say I did look at their website